Hey everyone, and welcome to another video. Today I wanted to put out a second defending tutorial. I think this is going to be, it's somewhat of a follow-up, but I think this one's more important. This is going to be the more general kind of applicable advice. I think everyone can take advantage of this. The first video was on my aggression. It's kind of particularly to how attacking I can be, how many players I like to get up the pitch, and how I need to be aggressive, very specific at cutting opponents down quickly, reading the play very, very quickly, very good at player switching, that kind of thing, just to make sure I can compensate for having fewer defenders, because all my players are getting up the field, right? So that aggression is very important for me, but this is going to be not quite the aggression of just like closing opponents down or really reading them, like, you know, specifically reading the play perfectly well. It's more like, this is what I'm going to see, and this is how I'm going to force the opponent into what I want them to do. So this is going to be vitally important. I'm going to have a couple clips of my opponents doing it poorly, and a couple clips of me doing it well. And yeah, this is going to be, I think people are complaining about the defending this year because they're so used to defending individually last year. When the AI did it all for you, everybody's in the perfect position no matter what. It didn't matter if you just controlled one player and pulled them way out of position, the rest of your team's going to compensate for that, right? It also didn't matter, you could defend so individually last year because you could do tackles from behind, you could tackle spam, you didn't need to switch all that much. So this year, I think defending as a unit, making sure that you're corralling your opponent into certain areas that you are controlling, really just understanding this is how I'm going to force my opponent to go somewhere they don't want to go, is going to be, I think, vitally, vitally important this year. So I've got a couple clips I want to go through with you here. Let's find out. So this one's one very, very poor pass out from me. But we're going to just kind of force the opponent into an area I want them to be. And you can see what I really want to focus on is look how many players I've got here that they're surrounded by versus how many players, you know, they've got as outlets. So what you've got for options, Frankie de Jong's too close. You can't pass to Lewandowski. What are you going to cross out there? That's not going to happen. Do you have this pass on down here with Garcia? You didn't, you know, if we go back a couple frames, that pass wasn't on. There's no passes behind, no support there. Like, you know, this pass isn't makeable. Chan's going to get there before Garcia. The run's not completed enough. Maybe she can backheel back to, I think this is Tonali. Maybe there's a weird little pass here. I think de Jong's going to get that. But even if you go backwards, this is not the most dangerous. You know, this is a decent attack if they can go back here to here. But that's still me succeeding as a defender because what I need to do is just delay and get you back. You know, if you're going backwards, I'm kind of winning, right? So they really don't have any options here, and we just want to talk about... I know this is a bit of a weird example with the giveaway. Also, forgive the video quality. My stream was dropping frames, so it is a little bit framey or stuttery or low resolution, but just bear with me. This is very important for me to get on through, and these were some good examples, I feel. So what's important here is I've got Sean. Sean's facing down. I've got this diagonal down, you know, movement with him down here. Trying to corral him, but specifically corral the opponent into Matson, because I've got the control on this side of the pitch. Because if the opponent's, you know, if I've got Sean down here and I'm kind of jockeying Prior up here, that's too dangerous because, you know, Timber's not close enough. Timber's gone wide, kind of forced wide by the run by Lewandowski. You can say this is bad defensive AI. You can say you want them to fix it. I don't want them to because I want the AI run to be what causes this. If Lewandowski's not here, this is terrible from Timber. But if, you know, if Lewandowski's like here and then he makes the run out here, it makes sense that one of the defenders is going to track that, and that opens up a little bit of space there, right? But the opponent doesn't have anybody else to move into that area. So what I'm trying to do is go, I don't want you to get up here. You know, there's nothing here that's dangerous, but I don't want you getting back up here because now you might have like a little give and go with Lewandowski, or you just get it to him and he shoots. Not like that, right? So what I'm trying to do, I've got Sean with this kind of angle. I don't want him back here because that's too easy to get that connection like I mentioned. I want him a little bit back here because if Pyro, you know, she'll need to take this little step here first. And Sean's going to be able to get there. But I've also got enough space to cover here if she just sprints on through, so... And what this is doing, I'm just kind of corralling down on here, and as we're kind of slowly forcing the play to go this way, it's just pushing her into Matson. And as it is, we've got de Jong here, you know, good AI from him there as well. Nothing else he really needs to be defending right now, no massive, like, vital runs to look through. So he's able to come through and support. And so we've just got these three players where I feel like I've forced the opponent into this bad opportunity where they didn't have anything else they can do. If you're an attacker and you're doing well here, you don't want to get yourself into these spots. So what I'd do with Pyor if I was attacking would be just keep her variable, keep her somewhere that's not just going to get me isolated. So you keep her up here, maybe you can try to dance around for a little bit. or you just go back. Maybe you tell this player to go on a run. You can do like this little, oops, sorry, was a refresh, excuse me. I have to get back to that clip, which is back here. You can try a little, like, you keep her in that spot. Maybe you go back this way, and you just kind of send this player on a run. Maybe you call him short, do something like that. But as it is, he's like, this opponent's kind of going, it looks like this area is open. I mean, Chan's being controlled and Chan's stepping out to me, right? I mean, maybe there's going to be some space for me to get into. And that's me just going, remember, this is off that weird little giveaway, which was my fault. But it looks like I could be aggressive here with Chan and just kind of step into, but it's like, it's a fake out there because I'm going, I might charge right at you, and then I turn right into the jockey, right? So we're just corralling down into Matsun. We've got a very good switch here. Chan's in the right spot. I don't need to continue controlling him. Matsun's the one to get a little bit more aggressive. Now I'm trying to accomplish the same thing there. You know, Matsun's taking this angle down a little bit. You can see the opponent just did a little turn there. You know, if I didn't get the player switch to Matsun, it's very important to get this timing right. Correct. Like, very important to get this timing correct, right? If I didn't do this little switch down to Matsun, there'd be a little bit too much space here, but as it is, because I'm pulling him in myself, what I'm doing is, you know, people are complaining the defense is too wide, it's too open, and I'm just going, I've got this wider defense, they're out here, I'm manually controlling them to fix that width myself, and that's why I think it's just, people are complaining about the defense, you've got to do these little manual adjustments, it's really on you, because if you've got this, you know, I conceded 1 goal in this game, but I was trying to fix the frames, so like, this was a scoreless game for the opponent. I just conceded 1 kickoff because I put my controller down to fix the PC issues, but beyond that, like, this was a perfectly, like, very, very well-defended game from me. It's the player switching. Like, you've got just down into Matsun, using Matsun to force her back into this area. I've still got control. I know I've got my eyes up on the pitch. Nobody's come here short. This is not a dangerous area. If they've got Lewandowski in a better spot, I've got to defend this differently. We'll be a little bit more flexible with what I'm doing, but it's just, use Matsun. You can tell that little reaction. She tries to go up. Instead of going through here, I use Matsun to take away that spot. So she's not able to go through anymore. She's not going that way. She takes her little move up. And where's up going into? Up's going into my other 2 defenders. So I've already got this area covered. And I'm just trying to use my players to force the opponent to go into areas that I've got control of. And again, I've got a couple of clips to go through of my opponents doing this really poorly. So I want to talk about, like, just how vital some of that stuff is. This would be a much quicker example. This might look like bad defending on the face of it, but I'm trying to do the same thing. It's Gwyn goes back, so I'm trying to cover A. Like, De Jong's not really covering any of the space back here. They've got 2 potential. Excuse me, I reloaded once again. That's on me. Using my wrong hotkey. All right, give me a moment. All right, got the clip up again, so it's going like, De Jong trying to cover maybe the back. I think this is going to be the more dangerous area. I don't really want them with central access. The reason I'm not scared about this is because I think, like, my backline is deep enough where I'm going to be able to cover. I've got the timing of this down very importantly. I know I'm going to be able to get there by the time they've, you know, they run out of options. I'm going to close them down, like, right with that perfect timing. So I think this is perfectly fine. Trying to cover a little bit with De Jong. Realize if he's got to drop a little bit more, and we've got to swap to Gwyn here anyway. It's more important to defend with her on this wing now. But I also see the space here. This is where the danger is to me, not out wide. So I'll concede out wide. And what this does with Gwyn, it communicates to the opponent. I'm literally speaking to the opponent going, you can't go here anymore. This is where you can go. I'm saying, go this way. I'm telling the opponent that, right? And the opponent goes, all right, I'll listen. I'm going to go right there. And what we've got here is a very good switch down with Timber. And you can see, like, I don't start sprinting immediately, and there's the sprint, and we time that down and close it down perfectly well. So the player switching again here, very on point. The opponent, like, knows that I'm controlling Timber here. But the opponent's thinking, I don't want to be too aggressive here, because if I, like, sprint right away, then it's going to be the pass on to, I think that's Payor there again, right? Like, this is going to be too dangerous. But nope, I've got my player here, and we're going to just delay. We'll kind of cover the space for a bit, and I see that sprint, and we'll just close that down right away. So there's the timing. Once that sprint is committed to, they can't do anything. There's no, like, fake shot out of this. There's no pass out of that or anything. The sprint is committed. We've got the timing. Aim it perfectly, get right there for the tackle, and gain possession back, right? But the reason that this works is because I'm defending for the rest of my team. I'm defending for my other players. I know that I can give up the space with Gwyn to defend something else, because that forces the opponent into something that I want them to do. This is all on me to control what's happening here, right? So I'm very kind of specific with how I step my players out of position. I want to make sure that it's always me dictating kind of what's going on, and not the opponent just controlling how I have to react to it. It's going to be a kickoff here, but I believe this clip is the same kind of corralling. So it's a little bit unlucky there. I feel like Matson can stick his leg out. Well, a little bit compromised because I went up for an interception. I feel that's okay. I could have gotten that, right? But it's just a little bit of a delay. And that switch to Timber there, that is everything on this defense. So I want to talk about this, right? Again, not the best AI from Lewandowski. I don't know what role he's on. He seems to be moving a little bit further away sometimes. But as we go through here, and apologies for the lower resolution. So I feel like I've got this closed down with Chan. It's Pyor, but it's on the first touch, so she's not going to like sprint immediately. I've got the timing here to cover this. There's no sprinting behind threat yet. This is going to be perfectly fine. So I've got this with Chan covered. And then there's a little bit of delay, and I realize I've got the spacing enough with Chan that she can take a sprint touch and I'll still get there first. So I'm not worried about the sprint on through. And what I do is I go, yeah, my player's a little bit wide again. My center backs aren't connected. And that might have been my fault in this case because I pulled the fullback out. No. Yeah, I've got to pull Chan maybe a little bit more left than he normally would be because I don't have kind of Matson pushing him further in field. So yeah, you know, my center back's in this spot, being a little bit separated from them, from each other, that might make a little sense, right? But then it's Timber, and we're reconnecting. I'm getting that connection back with these two players, and that's vitally important here. And you'll see, like, we're just kind of corral, like it. I could be using Chan to force her up into force Pyor up into Timber here, but then I feel that's going to be a little bit too vulnerable here. Maybe Tonali makes that run. Maybe there's a little give and go on. So what I want to do is I want to pull him down, and then back to Chan. You can see that player switch right back there. Chan's going to take away all of the down, area here. So he's covering anything from like here down, right? This is all his area. No matter what, Pyro sprints down there. Chan's going to be able to cover perfectly fine. She sprints through here. That's still his ball, right? So he's covering a lot of space here. But if Chan was here, he'd be compromised if it was just him, if Timber was still back here, right? So the fact that I've pulled him up means Chan's saying, it's that same communication. I'm telling the opponent, Chan's got all of this. You've got no threat here. You can't do this. You will lose the ball. So you're going to have to do something else. What else do you have? You can retain possession and go back if you really want. Nobody does this. It's FIFA. Nobody. I don't even think like this. Let's be real. If I had a player here, I might backheel it or something. But like, nobody's going to turn back like this, right? So they're being direct. It's off kickoff. You want to take advantage, and so they're going to go. Okay, I don't have any of this anymore. Well, if we've lost this space, what's left is anywhere else here. But Timber's controlling everything from here, right? So that's going to leave you with, sorry, this is maybe a little convoluted, but this leaves them with, like this space they can go back into or this little gap here. So let me get the whole, we'll show like he's covering here. He's covering here. It makes it look like there's this little space she can run on through. And that would have been there again without the little pull down from Timber. But because I've connected there, use Chan kind of very heavily bait. I'm going to cover very down here. It's communicated enough to the opponent that they can't just sprint directly central. They're not going to just sprint right into Chan. It's going to be a heavy touch here with this. They've started the sprint anyway, and I realize that as a defender. The sprint has been started, so no matter what, to turn while sprinting is going to be very heavy. That's why I react so heavy with Chan to go down here instead of keeping him up this way. Because the sprint touch was the touch before. Let's see if I can pause on that frame, right? That's there. That one's a sprint touch. And it might be a little bit hard to react to. Like, you've got to be very quick with these things, right? But you can see there, that's a sprint. That's a heavier one, and that's why this touch with her, you can see how, like, massive of a chop that is. It's a quick little move. It's not a quick move. It's not normal left stick, so it's not like the quick turns you can get this here, right? It's the heavy, while sprinting, making a big, like, commitment with your body, right? And because of that heavy touch, the sprint, as an attacker, what they were communicating to me to defend was the sprint is going to go down here. This is where I've got to go cover. And so they told me, go defend down here, and I did. But I could do that because I knew the sprint was going to be heavy touch. You can't just turn immediately perfectly up. And the reason I can get back there is because we've already moved Timber. Again, if Timber was wide, this doesn't work at all. But because we've reestablished that connection, she just dribbles right up into me, and I can control that. It's perfectly fine. So again, it's me as a defender. It's a little reactive there. I do have to kind of go, okay, the opponent's got a threat down there. I have to react to that sprint. But I can't afford to make that reactive move react to what the opponent's doing, because I've already like moved my chess pieces. I've already moved my players to cover everything else they've got as that threat. So I feel like a lot, and we'll get into this, right? I feel like a lot of opponents, or a lot of people I've seen complaining in this game, are going to be, they'll only control Chan here. Or they'll only control the CDM and let the defense do whatever, because that's what you did last year, right? So if you're struggling with the defense, make sure you're doing these little minute adjustments with your own players just to pull them, just to fix them yourself. You can't let the AI do it all for you this year. You just can't. It always should be too easy to get on through, but it doesn't look like this year. Hopefully it stays this way. It is too easy to get on through. So you're going to have to do these little adjustments over the pitch to fix your center backs going too wide, to fix your CDMs being a little bit too stationary, a little bit out of position. You've got to fix those little things yourself. I'll go through, I think, a couple more things here real quick, and then we'll get through some of my opponents doing it poorly. This is where it gets a little bit more framey, so you can see the stream wasn't doing too well. And so this is a little delay of the attack for the opponent. We'll go through the whole thing first. And so that's good defense from Chan. You can see what I want to talk about in the end is it looks like I'm covering down here, and then I do a little fake out, we'll cover up top, right? So I told the opponent I'm defending the one way. I very quickly, I tell you, you have to go the other way, and then I've also got that covered. But everything else here, this is my kind of, I got a lot of players up the pitch. Gwyn is on wing back here. I think she's wing back either plus or plus plus, I forget. And she's a little bit out of position. I try to do my aggressive defending, like I said in the other tutorial. I feel a little unlucky on this interception. She doesn't have intercept, so you can kind of say what you will about this, right? It's up to you, I suppose, whether or not you think this should be intercepted. I feel a little hard done by. Jockeying is, we will say, jockeying's a little bit underpowered this year, so it's kind of hard to get them exactly in that perfect position. But I'm almost there with Gwen. I'm not upset myself about trying to intercept this, but it does leave me a little bit more vulnerable. And what I've got to do here, I'm trying to cover, I've got what I think is more dangerous here, covering the wing. We're kind of heavy commit to that with Timber. But I realize now, to guard that very heavily, now I've got to be very, very flexible with Chan. I can't just commit to Lewandowski. This pass is still on. I'm covering both this ball down onto him and both this ball down onto up into the overlapping run. So I've got to cover both with Chan, and that's why I'm taking Chan. Just going back. I'm sprinting back. You can see the little jockey there. And now I get there in time to cover, and all I've done here is I've bought plenty of time for the opponent, or for my teammates to get back. So we're delaying, we're buying time, we're letting those connections reestablish instead of being all like this disparate defense, right? So just buying time. There's all this space. You can see this looks very vulnerable. This ends up getting covered by the AI, so I've only got, they have to take that option anyway. And they don't have any way on through. I'm too close with Timber there for them to get the pass on to Payor. Lewandowski's not going to be able to turn back and make that pass on to her, so we're perfectly fine. Delayed all well. And then this is me going, just going hey, I'll take away the little cut down on with Payor. Again, maybe you can get this little pass down to Lewandowski. Probably can't do that first time though, so you're going to have to take a touch. And so I missed it with the pauses. You can see I'm left side of her there. What touch does she take? Exactly where I told her to go, and that's where, I'm just already jockeying. I've already gotten to the other side. Very, very great tackle there. So again, everything with the timing here is very good, but it's kind of me just going we're delaying, we're buying time, we're waiting for the rest of the team to come back, and that's just some good defense. So not quite the same example in this clip of defending for the rest of your team and that getting them into somewhere stuck with 3 of your players around them like we did in the first clip. That is very important. If you can get your opponent forced into areas that you control, always nice. But in this one, just a little bit of delaying. I think people in those situations, that's where my aggression isn't just, always be rushing at the ball. You've got to go, okay, I can't close this down in any way. We're going to buy our time. That's why that's important, right? I think one more defensive clip here. This is another example. Now, the AI does here pretty well, but just an example of, I've got 2 players here, and it's the same communicating. What do I do with Matson? And again, the player switches here are very good. Excuse me here, there. So we've got Chan. We're kind of trying to close everything down that we can. But then a nice little player switch to Matson. Matson has gone back, and I've taken away the pass back to Tonali, because what's normally dangerous here is going to be that connection, right? Then Tonali can do that, maybe that, depending on the run, maybe up here, If they make this one on here, that's even more dangerous. I mean, there's so much there, right? It's the counterattack. I think this might have been not off a corner, but maybe a set piece or something, so everything's a little bit stretched from me. But what we've done is we've corralled them back down into the corner very well. I took away what's really dangerous. I took away that back pass. What does that leave them with? Well, they've got the kind of defensive play here. They could just be really like retaining of possession. If they do that though, I'm just going to keep the same. I'll keep these two. Like you can see my player switching very good. We'll just kind of keep these two going on like this, and we'll try to take away that space as much as we can and basically just go. You'll understand the idea of the opponent's here, and I'm covering here. So what are they going to do? Well, they don't have any way through these two players, right? So I've got these two in a very good connection here, and I've taken away their one option. They don't go with the defensive one, they go with the attacking one. That's where a nice little switch onto Emery Chan is going to just win me the ball back here. So, oops. Let's show that clip once again. Takes one action away, and then like the player switching. As soon as Tonali is covered, as soon as that back pass is covered, I'm not lingering on Motson. It's not him I need to be controlling here. If I rush down with Motson here, you might understand that, you know, I do this, and now instead of this connection, where like I showed you, they're going to be here, and I'm covering all of this. If Motson moves up here, instead of this line, I've got like this line, which means if, you know, if he gets through, this pass is no longer covered, depending on what the AI up here does. But that pass is no longer covered, or you've just got, you know, you've got the dribble back around here. So we've got to keep Motson kind of behind. That's why it's not Motson's responsibility to be the aggressive one here. I don't need to keep controlling this left back. He's done his job. He's taken away Tonali. In the time of the opponent trying to turn back and go, okay, I'm going to, you know, the opponent's being direct and aggressive. Also, they kind of have to be here, though. I mean, there's a lot of ways they turn back here and still lose the ball. So they'll be aggressive. They'll try to take that risk or reward for it, right? And the risk doesn't pay off because I've got it controlled so well there, right? So this is where you just want to make sure, like, you're not being aggressive with just one player. I'm using Motson to defend with another player. I think a lot of people are just going, I'm using my center back to defend with my center back. No, I'm using my center back to defend with my left back. I'm using my left back to defend with my center back. I'm using the two center backs in tandem with each other. So if these clips aren't making sense to you, maybe these next ones will, because I think a lot of people complaining about the defense are going through, let's see here, a couple ones back. Not actually this one. It's, sorry, give me just a moment there. Never mind, it broke. Hold on. All right, so let's watch this one here. You'll actually see this was a defensive clip I talked about just earlier. This is the one I closed down with all three players there, right? And we'll watch how the opponent, as I transition up the pitch, doesn't do that. So, yeah, I mean, the counterattacks are really effective. There's not a lot they can do, but then the fullback's pulled out pretty wide. They don't have a lot of connection between like the fullback and the center back. I've got quite a few things I can do. We've got the pass up. And the fullback very heavily commits there. They haven't done any player switching off of this fullback for a while. Let's see. There was the CDM, fullback, then the winger, then just the fullback. And he controls the fullback for so long. You can see in most of the clips I showed you, I'm doing these little adjustments as the fullback, but then a center back, then a CDM, then back to the fullback. You know, you've got to fix the fullback because they are closest, right? But then you fix that fullback, you don't need to keep doing it, so you switch to somebody else. And you can see here, this is longer than I've ever, like, just controlled one defender. So they're here for, I don't know, about 5 seconds with a fullback. Bad tackle. I mean, I don't know what they're doing there. And then it's kind of a slow switch. I mean, they make the tackle. And now's the switch. Like, that's a little bit of time in between that you could be adjusting that center back, right? So, like, the player switching, you want to get on point really quickly. But they're not connected. You know, there's a bit of a gap here. Nobody's quite running into it, but this is going to be vulnerable later. They've got this decent gap in between their back line and their midfield line, right? And so Messi on the false line is going to take advantage of that. But then there's too much of a gap, and so I start setting up these skill moves. Konate's just run back. He's not connected with literally anyone. I mean, this is the opposite of connecting. You're running away from the rest of your team. Little skill cancel there, and I mean, even here though, I mean, Konate's got a tackle off to the side. And this is a Div 4 opponent. This is somebody who's won, presumably, games and games in a row to get up to this skill level, right? Because starting in Div 7 for pretty much everyone, and then I assume most players were, you know, if you're Div 4 right now, you were probably Div 1 or Elite Division in the previous game. I don't even know how to talk about fixing this because they keep breaking it. And so I think a lot of people, it's just, and then now they've realized, like, they've got these disconnections. Now it's a player switch. Now it's another player switch. And I'm taking advantage of those player switches because they've got it at the wrong timing. So instead of getting their players all together, you know, how I'd fix this, you really got to fix it with a fullback, because then you're kind of getting everything. Everything's already a little bit vulnerable. You don't want to fix things when you've already made that kind of more drastic mistake. So I'd keep the fullback maybe a little bit more up here. Instead of defending here in this weird little backline shape, I'd have the fullback. I probably have them. I said weird little backline shape, but up here would be just communicating, telling the opponent to get down the wing, and then you can buy your time. And then it's just, you know, giving time for this line, hopefully, to get back with you, and you can make your connections from there. So I'd probably have the fullback actually a little more aggressive, but like you saw with Gwen in the one clip, I've got her way out of position, but it's to get the center back out wide to defend, and I had the timing for it. Well, now they're just with the fullback. These two players occupied with a run, and instead of me getting down the wing, but then them being able to stall, I've got this very vulnerable space in the middle. You could try to rush down with the center back. What might be decent here is if you can get like this angle, but you've got to do a little player switch with him. Either control him first before getting Kanata, or, you know, do this, but then a little quick switch here, maybe get back to Kanata. But this would be, you know, telling me with Messi, go back down on here, and maybe that'll be defended by the fullback here, right? Or you can be a little bit more aggressive, or not aggressive, a little bit more goal side, just like right in front, and try to see if you can corral Messi back into one of the CDMs. Maybe you can second man press with him or something, get on there. But instead, Kanate, wrong decision, steps on back. Nice little move there, and then just, yeah, some wrong player switching decisions, so everything just quite there incorrect on the defense. And you can see how stark of a contrast. This is the same opponent, Lewandowski and Pyrora, right? Like, I was defending so well against, but no, for their opportunities, it's nowhere near the same. This one's going to be, I think, even worse. What shape do they get their center backs in? Kanate all the way out. You've turned your four back. You've turned your 4-4, and your flat back 4 and your flat midfield 4 into a 3-5. It's not going to work out for you. You see, actually, I get just in between. They're not expecting that, so they don't do a tackle. Maybe you could press tackle there and get this one, but, like, this is not defending for each other at all. And you can see, I do some weird things with my shape. I'm not saying you've got to keep a flat back 4. It's far from what I do, right? It's not just keeping them flat, because then that's going to be pretty easy to attack against too, but it's got to be corralling. Kanata, you got to go a little bit slower, a little bit more... You got to communicate to the opponent, this is dangerous, I'm really jockeying, I'm telling you to go back, and if you can force me back, you've got your CDMs. I mean, you're surrounded me there. I don't necessarily have great passing options like back this way, right? So if you can force me on back, that'll work out quite well. I don't have this pass on down there either, but they don't have the player switching here quick enough to get this player there, right? Like, if you can, like, already a little bit before. There, if you can, like, do it here, once you're like, I've done what I need to accomplish with Kanata, then I can switch like right to this guy and then move him on. Maybe you can buy a little bit of time, but you got to guard both this pass here and that pass on there. It's poor defending because you're not doing it for somebody else. That's the main thing. If you take away anything from this video, my main takeaway is don't defend for that individual defender. Kanate here should not be defending for Kanate. Kanate is defending for Lacroix. Kanate is defending for Tonali, either the fullbacks, anything. But you can't just defend like one-on-one this year. It's not going to work out for you. You've got to make sure you're utilizing one player to get somebody else there. So here, Kanate pulled way too out of position. Lacroix's got to cover too much. I can shoot that far post, or I can shoot this one side. I can shoot that the other side almost. You know, after they've gone too far, I can dribble on through there. I mean, there's a lot of... At that point, it's almost a 50-50. You know, you make one decision, you fail, or you make it and it works. I mean, sometimes you win that 50-50 on defense, sometimes you lose it. So, but you don't want to be defending in 50-50s. You want to be defending in 90-10s. You want the probability in your favor, right? So, way too vulnerable there. I think here you'll see the same thing. Very end of the match, I'm not going to talk about this one too much. You can just see, you know, they're not defending for... I don't even need to talk about this at all. No connections, not defending for anybody. Konate's been pulled way out of position by a second man press. And that's just too vulnerable. This pass, I'm surprised, works this year. Hemp's not got tiki-taki or anything, but I'm not going to complain. I do like that ball does get on through. I don't like the 180 turnaround passes, but that one there I think I'm okay with. You see something like that happen kind of in real life, right? That's what I believe I wanted to talk about. And you can see a kind of similar thing. We won't go through this too quickly. But again, the main takeaway I just want to go through is a lot of people, I think, complaining about the defending are defending kind of like this. I mean, this guy's got Ferdinand, and you just see completely pulled out of position, not utilizing like any of the other defenders, the player switching is too slow. You just don't even get over to Desai quick enough. So the player switching is absolutely going to be a big thing. This one's just a counter. I mean, these are hard to defend, but wow, they've completely disconnected their center backs once again. Is this off a corner? It is off a corner. But then you've got this back 2, and then you make it a back 1, which just makes this even more vulnerable. I mean, yeah, that doesn't... I almost messed it up here with that pass, surprisingly, but like, it doesn't bode well for you if you're just pulling your players out of position for me. What happens here? This will probably be the last one we go through. I mean, yeah. Yeah, it just... You're not defending... Here's the thing. The opponent's not defending for the rest of their team. They're defending to cover the mistakes that have already been made. That is not what you want to do. You're not utilizing your defense as reactive to cover your mistakes. I'm being proactive every time in my defense, right? So hopefully you can take that away from this video. I mean, you can just see just way too much space. Way too much space. This is so easy, especially Ferdinand and Desai. Some of the best center backs you can get this stage of the year. I haven't faced them yet, and you're doing this poorly with them. So Ferdinand, way too heavy of a commit. What I do here, you know, when I'm using Chan or Timber and not even, you know, the best center backs, it's a little step down. You know, when Ferdinand's like here, you go here instead of all the way down here. There's the little yard gap. You'll go like that, and then you'll step back, and you'll try to catch the opponent on forcing this one. You know, if they get too direct, too aggressive with that, then it's, you know, I baited you into that, now I'm covering it. Or you just go, you know, I'll commit to defending that one and just say the wing is going to be less dangerous. Or you go back. You just go back here and say, I'll set the defensive line up deeper. You get closer to the goal, but I get a guarantee to cover it eventually. It's just, you know, not going to happen at the stage of the pitch you want it. Sometimes you got to drop, though. And this opponent just pulled this player too far out of position. Now I've got 2 things I got to cover with 1 player. You can even, if you're a good defender, let's see if they got time for this. Switch to Desai. This guy is doing literally nothing. I need to communicate to you right now. This guy does absolutely nothing for you. And maybe this is what people are complaining about. I don't want the AI to do this for you. I don't want them to go back here. I don't want them to come back here. The AI should be, this is the right center back. That's what the AI should be doing, right? You got the time here. If you pull this guy to Narnia, I don't have anybody here. Hemp's not going to make that run. You know, if he's not here, this one's not going to be made. I mean, the fullback's still there. You've got so much time to react there, right? Even if you just completely get him out of there. So what you want, and obviously I'm not recommending that, just get him close. Just say, because what you're doing here, the fullback can't cover meat anymore. So this guy's out of here. You're just shifting your back line, because I've only got 3. You say eventually, I think this is Cruz. Cruz will cover CC. You just got to wait a little bit for that, you know, buy time, delay. But instead of a back 4 and keeping that back 4 shape, Ferdinand's now your left back. Desai is now your center back, and I don't know, that might be Thuram. The right back here is now that center back, right? And so you're just pulling them all down. That's all you're doing here. So you can do, and you want to make that adjustment first. If you pull Ferdinand down, the AI is not going to do that for you. So you got to do this. You know, and if you do this, and I just take this pass immediately, you get the timing of it a little bit wrong, then while I'm stuck out wide, you can kind of deal with the wing play a little bit more. You don't want to give the center away immediately, so you got the timing here. Let's see. You really kind of unnecessarily try to defend from in front here. If you keep Cruz there, maybe you can keep Cruz even like guarding that a little bit better, right? But it's too inefficient. You control this player for a couple seconds there, or a couple, maybe a brief second there after, and then it's right to Ferdinand. Instead of controlling this guy, if you can player switch right to Desai, you've got the time here to do that, and then the time here to do that. But you've got to realize like where my players are going, right? So it's a lot of recognition, but again, the main thing I want you to take away is make sure your players are defending for the rest of your team. So hopefully you did enjoy this. This I think more than anything else I can put out, this is going to be the like primary crucial, you know, gospel of my defensive tips. So yeah, hopefully you did enjoy this. Any comments, any questions, do let me know down in the comments. Hopefully you did enjoy though. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And I'll catch you here again shortly. Take it easy, everybody. Peace.